We are going live we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is Paco. I'll be your host. And with me is the amazing and very talented Jorges.psd. Jorge, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, man. I'm super stoked for today. I know a lot of our other streams were kind of learning some technical skills and kind of getting familiar with Photoshop, but today we're kind of unveiling the curtain behind what it's like to work in sports and kind of like the cadence of a game day. So super stoked for that.
Yeah, I'm super excited. We were chatting a little bit before this live stream, and you were kind of telling me everything that you do, your journey. I feel like you have a
Yeah,
really cool gig, but I won't tell that story. That's all for you, my friend. So
yeah,
let's just kind of kick it right into it. I'm
for
going to go
sure.
over to your screen real quick and just let us know real quick for the people that may not know you, what it is that you do, and what the plan for the live stream today is.
Sure. So I'm a graphic designer for the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm gonna go into my third season, which is crazy because I feel like just yesterday I graduated college and came out here to start working. But yeah, I've been doing sports design kind of ever since I was in middle school and high school, and so it's been a hobby of mine that's kind of persisted and been lucky enough to make it a career. But yeah, super stoked for that. And what we were talking about kind of off stream was just kind of how busy the season gets. And so there's a couple of pieces, throughout my page that kind of speak to that, like our playoff campaign that, I helped develop last year. This was, one of the campaigns I got to work on, some hype graphics here and there. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it's a lot of personal work. Love basketball, obviously you can tell, but yeah, some more Charger stuff, but just very lucky to make stuff. Very excited. So very excited to have you guys with me here today and yeah, ready to get into it.
Yeah, these are some amazing graphics. We're just kind of looking at this pinned one that you have from the graphics. Looks like you made a graphic for the Olympics. Looks like you had some
Yeah.
pretty good engagement, man. It's looking
Yeah,
pretty sweet.
it was nice. It was kind of a fever dream, I told the story about it on the last stream that I was on, but I made it. We didn't have lunch at the facility the week of the Olympics, or the last week of the Olympics. So I went to Chick-fil-A and made this graphic, while I was having a spicy chicken sandwich in my hand. And I'm sure, really zoomed in on someone's face like that probably looks really weird if anyone came behind me, but it ended up working out really well. And that was kind of the second piece capping off of this one when the U.S. won gold in hockey when Jack Hughes like chipped his tooth. So kind of was drinking the Olympic juice for a little bit, but yeah, those two were neat for sure.
Did I hear correctly that you shot this at a Chick-fil-A, or that's where you got the inspo?
And I mean, I did it all within an hour. I
That's
was in
crazy,
between,
man.
yeah, it was my lunch break. So I was like, what, like, dude, I got an idea, like, let's cook. And so, I started making it, whatever, and I screen recorded the whole thing and I put it in here, but I don't know if hopefully the sound's on because it's
Uh,
too loud. But basically, yeah, this is all at
there it
Chick-fil-A,
is. Okay. Yeah.
but man, it's yeah, I just came up with the idea. I was like, let's do it. So
That's great.
yeah,
It's
it's a
funny
little
when
bit
those
about that.
ideas come at the craziest moments. And
No,
spicy
seriously.
chicken sandwich guy, Chick-fil-A. I'm a normal chicken sandwich guy, but
Yeah, I mean, it
I
gets the
know people that
juices
live and die
flowing.
by that sandwich.
Yeah, dude, the spice, you gotta take out the pickles though, because that'll mess up your
Yes.
creative
Oh,
mojo.
one of
So
us. The
yeah,
pickles.
can't do
Chicken
that.
sandwich, no pickles, please.
I'm saying, I'm saying. But yeah,
Very cool. So yeah, I'm excited about this. We are in for a very fun stream. I got the YouTube chat open. So for those of you that joining us, we are live. This is a two-way street. So the reason we go live is so you guys can engage with us. If you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, feel free to shout them out in that YouTube chat, which is what I'm looking at. I'll be happily relay it to Jorge. So yeah, don't be shy. I always say this is a safe space. We want to learn with you. You want to learn alongside with us. So if you have any questions, I'll be looking at the chat. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Jorge, what are
for
we going to be
sure.
starting off with us? Or
Yeah.
what are we going to be starting off with today?
So we're starting off with Firefly Boards, and this has been kind of a lifesaver for me over the past couple of weeks. We've done a couple of campaigns with the Chargers with free agency and now with draft, where it really helps to kind of have all your assets in one spot. So for me, what I figured today, the best way to incorporate Firefly Boards is to kind of show this identity. So real quick, what I'm gonna be doing today is kind of giving you guys the game plan here, which is we're starting off Firefly Boards to kind of see the general branding of this, baseball team. I call them the Atlanta Cobblers. Peach Cobbler, coming off the Masters. whatever. And so we're starting here with Firefly Boards to see all of our assets in one spot. But then we're going to go into Photoshop and we're going to be making a score template for this imaginary baseball team that, they finish the game, they want the score graphics to go out on social. I'll show you guys basically the cadence of how we make them and then how we post them on social. And then finally, Adobe Express for scheduling content. And in this instance, we'll make graphics and then we'll schedule them through the week on a specific day so that we can get things live when we want them to. So yeah, so real quick, we'll go over the brand identity, which is always a fun thing for me, and I always get a kick out of it. I actually found this Atlanta script in Adobe Stock. And I was kind of surprised. I was like, oh, like this is really neat, very baseball. So I put this here in the piece, and then kind of built out a little bit of an identity. So we have a secondary logo. We took the script logo here. We have the color palette here and some stock imagery. So
Nice.
this is
And the Atlanta Cobblers, this is something we made up, right? Or something that you made up?
Yeah, something totally made up. I just saw the Atlanta. I was like, you know what, like that's a baseball team. Let's run it.
The Cobblers. I love that.
Yeah, something different, something different. So this is kind of where we start, and this has been really helpful, like I said, for a lot of the campaigns I've been able to work on. I know Nick Longo, had done something where he basically explained kind of the power of Firefly Boards at a Adobe retreat that I went to a couple of weeks ago, or I guess about a month ago. But that really opened my eyes to kind of the power of this, and you can kind of look at this here where I started out with this Atlanta script text, and it's great, but you really can't build like an identity behind it. Like you gotta add a little bit of spice to it. So I wanted to kind of come up with a secondary logo, and we'll actually be using this logo throughout making our graphic. But how I did it was, I'm not very Illustrator savvy. Like I'm, very much, aligned with Photoshop. I don't have the power with the vectors. That's not me. But I knew that I wanted a secondary font. So, Atlanta Cobblers wanted to have the script C in there. So what I did was I actually used Firefly Boards built-in like Gemini model to generate this basic array of script letters. So that's where I pulled this C from. So basically I prompted it. Maybe we can do it live here, I think. Let's see.
Yeah, let's check it out. And that's the beautiful thing about Firefly Boards, right? Is you can kind of use it as like this ideation playground and get inspiration from the design and essentially come up with a brand identity right in just one spot. So
Right.
kind of see
It's
that's what you
crazy.
did here. That's awesome.
Yeah. So what I did was I selected this, right? We'll go to edit. And then what I did is I did this Gemini 3 with Nano Banana. And then what I did is I also sampled from this canvas. I think it was, here's what I did. And then I asked, what did I say? I said, make a typographic system using these letters. And then it will generate. And it takes a little bit, but you should end up getting something similar to this. And it was very helpful. I took this into Illustrator. I image traced it and basically took that and combined it and made this logo. So super quick. Some people, will do this by hand. It'll take a minute, but for me, when I'm trying to set up the stream, it ended up being very helpful.
Yeah,
So
what did that take? Like all of like 5 or 10 minutes to be able to like come up with like a typographic letter?
yeah, probably
And especially with
less.
that image trace tool that Illustrator has. I mean, we featured that on this live stream before and just kind of shown its magic. And yeah, with a couple clicks, you have vectors right over an image that you import. Like it's nuts.
It is crazy. And, at the Chargers, we have people that, are a lot more Illustrator aligned and are way more talented than me in that space. And I mean, they crushed. And normally this is something that they would do and they would,
Right.
I think do it a little bit better and do it a little more thoughtfully. But, if time's the essence, which a lot of the time it is, getting something that you can get ready for, I guess here's the result. So, maybe it would use a better prompt, right, to get it. But generally, you get the idea here. I mean, it even has the
Yeah.
letters here.
It's got the letters down there. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, there's I'm sure enough ways to prompt it to kind of get it good. But yeah, that's what I did. Obviously here that's what the G stands for, is that I use the Gemini 3. But yeah, this is where we're gonna start. Always good to use Firefly Boards as a way to get a broad overview of your brand or whatever you're working with. Very easy to help pitch things and pitch ideas, because a lot of people that aren't designers don't think visually like we do. So being able
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
explain with words, some people just can't visualize that. So using boards as a way to kind of bridge that gap has been super, super helpful for me. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
love
To your point, I mean, it's phenomenal for ideation for people like us that got to wear a lot of hats. But obviously, if you're making a proper system for a brand, you would have the illustrators properly do it by hand and vector. But just to get that on a board with a couple clicks, just for the
Yeah.
purposes of ideation, where it's not necessarily the apps that we're super fluent with, I mean, it's
Yeah.
huge, right? It's
It's no
huge.
joke. It's no joke. No, I love it. I've been using it a lot. So now we're gonna hop into Photoshop, and I kind of did a little bit, wouldn't say cheating, but I basically organized all of our assets that we had in Firefly Boards into a little bit of a library. So we use this a lot with the chargers, is our libraries. We have all of our stuff saved on our library, just to make all of the accessing different. Logos or colors, super accessible, and it's been an awesome tool. So I figured the best way to, make this identity is to kind of keep it, real and kind of how we do it. So we have our colors, our logo marks that are all vector, and then we have our player photos, and then some textures, and then some text. So I'm gonna get right into it. So I'm gonna drop this. Oops, I'll drop this logo here. And so normally when we're making a graphic, and it's a game day graphic, the two things that we want to communicate are the visual. So this will oftentimes be the player or like the MVP of the game, and then the score, where we'll have someone have a really great game. We want to highlight them, but then also we won, so we want to highlight that. So those are the two pieces of information that are the most important to get across in our work. So when I'm making a graphic and starting it from scratch, those are the things I want to make sure are front and center and don't get lost. My creative director says, don't bury the lead. And he's absolutely right, because, when you do that, you kind of, if someone's scrolling on their phone and see an Instagram story and, they can't immediately tell who the best player of the game was and can't tell what the score is, you've lost the plot. And your score graphic is kind of doesn't do anything, right? It just kind of looks cool, but doesn't communicate anything. So that's what I'm going to try to do. And so when I'm, playing around with this, what I'll try to do is figure out where I want to format the score. That's kind of the first thing I think about. And so I was practicing off stream a little bit, trying to think about, how we could use this script font. And I like that you can use it as a like framing device and a framing element. So I'm gonna stick this here, because I can already imagine the score kind of falling in this black box. So before I get
And then for the
all,
artboard, I guess you would know that the scoreboard is a 1 by 1 square box. Is this kind of the
yeah,
frame we're working with? Okay.
yeah. So normally I'll start out with one size, and then I'll duplicate it, and then I'll resize for other things. So for Instagram stories or 4x5s for Twitter, that's kind of how we do it. But normally you start out with one, because if you know anything about smart objects, or if our viewers know anything about smart objects, you'll make a smart object, you'll duplicate the artboards, and then they'll all be linked. So if you edit the
Exactly.
score for one graphic, they will all be updated for all the subsequent sizes. Now, if you don't link them, then you have to go through individually, and it's a nightmare.
Don't sleep on smart
Yeah,
objects, my friends. They are lifesavers for workflows like these. I see we
I'm
got
telling
Ryan
you.
Selvey in the chat. He says, Jorge and Paco, two of
Nice,
my favorite people. What's up, Ryan?
nice,
Good to see
nice.
you. Let me give some love to the chat, too. I see we have
Morning, Rye.
Pearl and Cream Cheese. We got Jacob. We got Clever Devil. We got Dino. Thank you all for joining us and hanging out with us. Again, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to drop them into the chat. Right now, Jorge is demonstrating us how he takes a sports brand team and makes graphics out of them. So right now we are working
For
with an
sure.
artboard we're kind of going to highlight a specific player, right? If they were to score, it's something that you would post on
Yeah,
social.
yeah, for sure. So I'm going to fill these, kind of get it with our brand colors. Really easy here with our libraries. I got this little I don't know how to. Fucking, you know how to remove this like zoom screen? This little
Oh, so
zoom
it's
bar?
it's hidden on our end. We can't see it, but
Okay.
there should be a little handle maybe to the left or right where you can just grab it and move it. If you can't, let me know. If it's going to be kind of a stream stopper in your workflow, we could just kind of pause for like a quick 30 seconds and we'll get
No,
it
I
out
think
of
we're
there.
good. I think I
Okay,
moved it down here. So we should be good to
perfect.
go. Yeah, cool.
Sweet.
So using these brand colors to kind of, fill out the frame. And then obviously we want to include our player. So what I'll do here is I'll grab this little box, the shape tool, and that looks about good to me. I'll fill it, let's just say with red for right now, just so we can visualize how it fills up the space. And I think that'll be good. So what I'll do is I'll take the stroke. I'm clicking this stroke button here on the shape panel. And I think 3 pixels might work. And then we'll go to our libraries. And then this is kind of where we would adjust, a player on the fly. So I'll drag this photo here. And I'm going to clip it. I know we've talked about this before in different streams, but to do that, I've got the control of Command Option G to clip it, unclip it into this layer. So super helpful. And yeah, I'll make that a smart object. So cool, we got our player image, we have our boxed frame, but let's kind of design the rest of the piece. I can already see, where the numbers will go. So for the final score, so I'll just make that a little bit bigger. And let's kind of see if we can mess with some other assets too. Like I said, we're going to be using the secondary logo a lot because I think it's pretty tough. I think script fonts, especially with baseball, like that's kind of like their thing. I love how
That's the
they,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, I love how they do it on their jerseys and whatever. So, I'm gonna kind of fill out this negative space here. I'm gonna color fill that with maybe another one of our brand colors. Let's say this red. Make sure we're kind of getting everything in there. Color drop in. And to do that is super neat. I actually didn't know this. I had one of my coworkers tell me this because I was basically doing the long way to color all of my vector assets when I first started working. But there's this really neat tool for those of you who don't know. It's if you click this FX panel down here, you can do color overlay, and then you can actually select your color. So it can update in real time, whatever. It's been super helpful. I can't believe there was a time where I didn't know that existed. Kind of embarrassing, but
No,
it's
that's
part
we
of the
say this a
process.
lot. I can't tell you how many times doing these live streams where we'll have seasoned pros that are just amazing, and there'll be a little tool that they didn't know existed that makes their workflow so much easier.
Right.
And that's all part of learning, right? We love to say here in Adobe Live, everybody's a forever student, right?
Yeah.
There's it's I know very 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 few people, if they even exist, that know the programs inside and out and master it. And the things that they're always
Yeah.
evolving. So things that used to take you 3 or 4 clicks, will come out with a new update that it takes you 1 click, kind of like that. Like the real-time color picker, like you were showing, that was a
Yeah.
big requested feature because you would click it and you would see the color, but that real-time color overlay, it's just
Yeah,
making them
it's
more
no joke.
efficient.
It's no joke, and I love it. And my boss is, he's kind of a savant with so many different Adobe programs. He's taught me so much about, like, especially with Illustrator. Like we have to print out a lot of assets and stuff for print for, like, the draft coming up and for playoffs and physical signage. And the way that you have to get that stuff ready for print and with bleeds and crop marks and everything, if you come from a social media background, like that's never something you think about or have to worry about.
Oh
But
yeah.
he's a huge trove of knowledge with that kind of stuff. I'm always learning stuff from him. We talked about something the other day, with getting some files nimble and ready for export for the draft. Just kind of thinking ahead of all the worst case scenarios of if a file is too big and it doesn't send quick enough, or if the Photoshop file is so big that it crashes. Like how do you build basically a fail-proof PSD so that if anyone comes in and needs to work on it or tinker with it, or if there's an issue that, or a revision, they can download it in a reasonable amount of time and do it. It sounds simple, but, it's all these things when speed is the name of the game, working in sports, any, few seconds or any few minutes you can shave off in the editing and exporting process, like we'll figure out a way to do it. That's kind of our job.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's
speed
awesome.
goes a long way. I mean, you're already kind of doing that to your credit and point. Is just having everything organized, your libraries, your
For
colors, your
sure.
logos. You have a library, and I mean, you're just speeding through this. Like, I mean, we've been live like just 15 minutes. Look at all this stuff we already got going. It's looking
you
awesome,
know,
man.
yeah. We'll slow it
Just
down too, because I also want to make sure that people are understanding what we're doing here, so we're not zooming too fast.
No, I
But
think the chat's vibing with it. We have a couple comments saying, "I learned things after 20 years of programs that make me question if I ever knew anything at all."
yeah,
Someone saying that would be me, Paco, retired and still learning. Yeah, we're all forever students. I'm not even gonna. I've been working with the video apps for over 11 years now. I'm not even gonna pretend to know I know all of it, right? I'm always learning new things, and even from people that come from all different backgrounds, right? I think there's something to teach
yeah.
for all of us. Like you were
Nah,
saying, your manager there came from like a printing thing. There's a lot of things that transfer over to the things that we do today.
sure. Yeah, it's super crazy. And, kind of one of the things that I had learned over the past couple of years is kind of how to use these blend modes. And so we're going to touch a little bit on that here with kind of making the background look a little bit more. We kind of like to avoid using just flat backgrounds. I think in some instances it can look neat if you're trying to go for a more retro, more like 60s, 70s type of vibe where color blocking was a big thing. But, with all the graphics now, if you look at them on social, you always see there's, grungy backgrounds, there's, different images masked into the background. So we're gonna do that here, and normally sometimes people ask me, what do we do for these blend modes? Hate to say it, but it really is just trial and error. Like it literally is like as simple as like, okay, I have this background image, have it masked into that navy background. Okay, let's go through each one of these and see which one I like most. And it kind of gets boring and exhausting, but sometimes you'll get a cool effect. And here I think like luminosity, I think is kind of what we're gonna go for here. I think maybe let's try 40%, see what that looks like, and maybe
To your credit,
lower.
I don't think I know anybody that doesn't use blend modes that way, right? It's like I even
Yeah,
have a shortcut when I use them in After Effects. It's just like Command plus or minus, and I literally go through every single one just to see which one ticks the box.
yeah. I don't think anyone, knows, yeah, what they do. I'm the same
Yeah,
way
it's
with Camera Raw. Like we'll touch on that a little bit here as I'm masking kind of the image to kind of blend it a little bit. But same thing with Camera Raw, and we can actually get into that now. Like for me, that's such a important part of my workflow, and I think something that makes people really resonate with my personal work is just kind of how you get the lighting and the shadows. 80% of that's done through Camera Raw, and there's really no science behind it other than you just kind of just do what you feel looks good and kind of fits the piece as a whole. Obviously, we have our tan kind of color. We had that script font, so we were already kind of getting this vintage vibe or this Americana type of vibe. So that's kind of the thought that I would have before I would go into Camera Raw and think, okay, how do you do that? Well, I probably lighten the shadows a little bit, probably make them more flat, more analog, probably warm it up a little bit to kind of get it, feeling like it's like that summer type of like magazine feel. Like these are kind of the things that we think about when you're editing photos, kind of in the context of a graphic. And so we can kind of get into that right here with Camera Raw. Like I said, all trial and error. But
yeah, camera. I've used Lightroom a ton, and I mean that's exactly how I use it. It's the beautiful thing about those sliders is they're non-destructive, and you can just kind of
right.
see what it is. Like I'll slide it all the way to the right and dial it back, and when you work
Let's
with
see.
this
Yeah,
enough, you
yeah,
just kind of see like, oh, there it is. Right, yeah. Yeah, and it's all trial and error. It's just pushing pixels.
yeah.
That's what I
Yeah,
love to say.
for
But that's
sure.
how it is. It's like I'd love to meet the person that's like exposure 0.36, contrast plus 12.
Yeah.
Like no, it's like
I'm
all
sure
just
they're out there.
sliding.
That'd be crazy.
I'm
That'd be
sure. Yeah,
crazy
I
for
wouldn't be
sure.
surprised. I would be surprised. But yeah, I think most people I know. I mean, we're all kind of working this way, just sliding it just
Right.
to see what feels and looks right for us.
Yeah. And in this texture and clarity bit, I mean, this is one thing that I will say throughout, no matter what graphic I'm making, it doesn't matter if it's baseball, football, basketball, whatever, this texture and clarity, I'm always bumping it up. I think this is one of the things that no matter what, I'll always make sure to touch. The shadows and lighting, I mean, they change based off, if the photo was taken in the day or the evening or whatever. So, but these two, I got to give a shout to texture and clarity. LeBron James, D Wade of Camera, I always say. So, always taking a look at that. And now we're up in the shadows here, kind of making it a little bit more muted, a little bit more dramatic. Let's see if we can make it a little bit darker and a little bit more matted. So now we're kind of getting that analog feel that we were talking about. If
Yeah.
you want to look at what we had to where it's at now.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you to do is kind of like turn off that effect on and off just to see the difference that it's making because it's
Yeah,
adding a lot. Like now we are kind of looking like that vintage like
for
Fuji
sure.
Kodak film look that's so
Yeah.
prominent in like graphics and zines.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and this is also one of the things too, and this is, obviously we can't fully think about it as if we're working with the team. But like you'll have a lot of photos, like at the Chargers, we'll have, night games, day games, but they'll all be taken at SoFi Stadium. So there's, if you really want to geek out about it, there's like a general lighting pattern of our midday game. So it makes it really easy to edit photos if they're all from the same lighting condition with the same, powdered jerseys. Like it's very easy to dial in the color correction. You can get a little bit more specific with what you want to do with it. With this, it's pretty general, and we want this to, get another photo from, a different game, baseball, you play indoor, outdoor, day, night, like it's a lot more varied. So you kind of want something that's a little bit more general and blanketed so that you can pop a photo in there and then the color treatment doesn't look too stark and it kind of looks
Right.
like it fits. Because sometimes if you dial it too much, you'll do that for a day game, then you'll drop it in a night game and it looks crazy and like super blown out.
I think we have a pretty important question in the chat here.
Sure.
Someone's asking, is texture LeBron or D Wade? That's from P Devil. You're on the spot
What a
now, man.
question. What a
You're
question.
on the spot.
What a question. I'm a Braun guy.
Yeah,
I'll just start there. And I'll
there it
say
is.
texture is always the first one you see, first one in,
Right.
last one out. Texture is always the first one you're dialing. And so, I think of that. Yeah, texture is more the superstar. And I'd say clarity is more of like that, that Robin, you got Batman and Robin, it's just one of
There it
those things
is.
where texture always looks good. Clarity is what dials it in. So
Yeah, it
probably say
complements
that's,
it.
yeah, I'd probably say that's it. But yeah, you can see here, with just the camera raw, messing with it a little bit and kind of that forethought of, hey, like, Americana, we want to lighten the shadows a little bit, make it more analog. Think about that before we get into camera raw. This is the result of that. So we got that here. So we'll put this
Nice. That
here.
looks great.
Yeah. And then now we'll get
Uh,
to the score, right? This is the second part. So meat and potatoes of what we're trying to do here. So,
cool. And just a quick time check. We're about 26 minutes in, so we have a little bit over 30 minutes left.
for sure.
This is flying by, man.
Yeah.
Time
No,
flies
I
by
love
when you're
it.
having fun.
I love it. So, I have this font I was using for uh my one of my graphics. Let's see. It should be license. Oh no. I think it may have abandoned me. All right. Well, we'll do it live.
We'll do it
We'll kind
live.
of we'll stick with this. But yeah, so we'll do a little bit of an effect here with these numbers. So one of the things that I like to do is, when you're displaying text and displaying numbers and you want people to be drawn to them, you want to make sure that they have some kind of effect or a stroke or something that leads people's eyes to follow this. I mean, this is information we're trying to communicate. So one of the things that I'll do is I'll go through and I'll add in let's see, should be a stroke. So I'm going to do a stroke right here in this layer, and it'll bring you to this like layer style panel. And so there's a lot you can do with this, and there's a bunch of YouTube videos that I've looked at, to kind of get like metallic effects and, for one of our graphics for Superchargers, which is our like 80s throwback campaign, we used a lot of this like liquid metal effect, and it was kind of all done through the layer style panel. So there's a bunch of things you can do with this. We'll keep it simple with kind of adding a little bit of a stroke effect to our piece and just get it, here. So the cool thing about this is that, it's an effect that is done live. So it's live text. Have the layer intact. And so if you want to do like a 10, it keeps the stroke outline as opposed to it being like a hard coded
Right.
type of layer style. So it's actually really great. So what I'll do too is I'll duplicate this, and I kind of want to, play into that like die cut effect of that you can sometimes get with your text. So what I did here is I clicked on our layer panel, and I just made it our dark navy. And so now you can kind of see it has this die cut text effect, and you will have to go through individually and update both of these threes individually, but it's pretty easy to do. So this is an easy way to kind of call attention to the score. So I'll go ahead and add our team name. I'll lock these real quick. Oops. Cobblers score. And then let's just write Cobblers. Why not? Stars of the show. Oh, Sorry, layers locked.
Nice. In the meantime, I want to ask the chat if the Cobblers had a mascot, what do we think it would be? Let's write it in the chat. What do we think the mascot for this team would be? I have an idea that's obviously obvious, but yeah, maybe we got our creatives out there. What do we think a good
Yeah,
mascot for the Atlanta Cobblers could be?
you definitely don't want to be too on the nose. It's
I
something
know
about
that's
being
what
subtle, you know.
you got to be subtle, but you got to be creative with it.
It's funny too, because you know these minor league baseball teams. I don't know if how closely people follow it, but I know there's the so and so trash pandas. I know the trash pandas are
Raccoons.
are one of the teams, which that kind of blows my mind a little bit that you know they can just name them willy-nilly like that. But I love it. I mean, it gives it character. I think the logo for it is super funny.
Yeah,
I
I
think it's
think
super
minor league
cool.
baseball is that's kind of their thing, you know. They like go with
Yeah,
crazy, outlandish performances and
right.
mascots. I don't know if anybody watches John Oliver, but they had a whole episode in rebranding a minor league baseball team, and some of the mascots that they got were hilarious.
Yeah. I mean I mean that's I mean it gets people out to the games. I know, you
It
know,
does, yeah.
I'm from Dallas originally and there's a I don't know if it's a double A or triple A team out in Frisco. But yeah, I mean, dude, those ballparks, man, it's a good vibe, you know. The Ranger
They
Stadium
turn
now,
up.
it's you know the Ranger Stadium is it used to be Globe Life Park. You know it was super neat, and you know it was outdoors. It was hot. You know that Texas heat's no joke.
Hmm.
But yeah, then they moved it. You know they got corporate on us, and they made an indoor stadium, big stadium. You know AC. You know it's not my thing, man. It's not baseball. But
It's
those minor
not.
league teams, man, they're in the trenches. Like they really are, like doing the most, doing the most there.
Oh, we have some funny suggestions. We have a peach, lumpy cobbles.
Lumpy
Sh-
cobbles.
Sherry saying cobbler makes me think of little elves. That's funny.
Hey, there you go.
That's great.
Cool. So, you know, we're referencing back to our libraries panel here, where we already conveniently have our like script logo mark here for the Atlanta. So we're keeping that front and center. We can actually center it on our artboard here. We'll make sure it doesn't compete with anything else. So yeah, so we already kind of have our score here. I want to make sure it's very, very visible. And whatever. But we also, like we said before, we want to make sure the graphics feel a little bit more elevated, a little bit more designed. So what we'll do is we'll add a texture. Let me go to my background layer here. I'll drag and drop this dirt and grunge texture. So same situation as before. You know, we'll mess with the blend modes and kind of see what looks good. You know, we'll kind of mess around. I kind of like this little screen blend mode we got on it, kind of lowered a little bit, just to kind of fill the space, make it not feel so flat. I mean, we're talking baseball, right? We're talking the diamond, dirt, getting gritty, like down and dirty, like that's what it's all about in baseball. So that kind of plays to that kind of effect a little bit here. So we'll clip that in. Let's lower our score a little bit because we want to show that's also the final score. Got to know what inning it is, all that important information. So I'm gonna duplicate this layer. So what I'm doing, kind of same thing as Illustrator, I'll hold down Option. I'll actually go back, hold down Option. I'll select our layer. I'll drag it up, and then it duplicates it. So so you're not always doing Command D, Command J, for this duplicating. Time's of the essence, like we said. So always trying to find ways to get a little bit more quick. So increasing our final. Part of me wants to make it the same effect as this. So let's do the same thing. Let's see, what will I do? I'll make it red. I'll stroke like we did before. Actually, what you can do is you can do Option. I'll select this 3, right, that we already have the stroke layer going with. I'll select it. I'll select this FX panel here. What I'll do is I'll click Option, and then I'll drag this up to our final, and then it should populate with the same effect, right? If you just drag it onto here.
Nice.
Yeah, and you can edit it too. I'll probably lower it down so it's not too aggressive. Let's do 12.
Time
And
is
I'll,
of the essence, like you said, man. Work it
yeah,
smarter, not harder.
I'm saying, I'm saying. So we'll drop this in the back, make it that die cut
Yeah, there you
type
go.
of
It's
effect
great.
as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
so cool. So looking good there. And then obviously one of the things that always alternates throughout a game day is who our star player is. So obviously we have our photo here, but we also want to make sure that people, if this is their first time they're engaging with our content, they know who this is. I mean, obviously this is a stock image, so you can't have anyone's face in it. So you wouldn't know who this is unless you knew the roster and knew who number 3 was. So what we'll do is we'll add like a little bit of a name tag. I already went through an image traced this kind of brush effect. We'll clip in here. And I'll add, that. Let's try that again. We've got our brush effect here. Make sure it's clipped in, Command G for all of our quick users out there, shortcuts. And then yeah, we'll add a player's name here. I can take suggestions if you'd like.
Yeah. What so for our friends watching this, what do we think the player of number 3 is? What's the name of this cobbler?
Yeah. I'll put athlete as a placeholder for right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say it'll take a couple of seconds for the suggestions to
for
come
sure.
in. So yeah, we'll put a placeholder. That's a good call.
And then we'll put him number 3, with a little bit of a sidebar, and then his position. So let's say right field. Why not? And then it's a variable font, so should be able to vary it up here in this type layer for properties. So for this, if you have a lot of competing fonts, you want to make sure that, they can be more complementary than really like jarring. So if you have kind of the rule of thumb that I use, and when I'm, doing a bunch of text heavy stuff, is I'll have my main font that I'm trying to use, and then I'll drop it 2 weights down for anything that's supporting it. So here, I'll drop the weight down to, let's say right here. I think this looks good enough. But yeah, just to make sure that the name is the most important. The number and position, that's cool, but we want to get people familiar with our players' names. So we'll drop this, make it be red. So we got our athlete. Actually, we'll go white here, and we'll go red for the supplement. And then I'll make sure this color overlay fits our branding with this navy. So I'm selecting this, taking this eyedropper tool, and I'm just going over here and selecting this navy we have in our color palette. Cool. So we got our athlete name.
We got a suggestion, Rooster. I don't know if that'll fit, but
Rooster.
Cool name. Yeah, Rooster.
All right.
Okay.
Let's give him a first name. R Rooster. There you go.
R Rooster.
R Rooster. Classic.
I like it.
There we go. So now we got a little bit of a player name here. So we're keeping the information front and center. And then also to kind of make this a little bit more dynamic, what I think would be interesting to do is take this, should be BG asset, but we'll take this script font and we'll kind of envelop our player image with that asset. So maybe that didn't come off clear, but I'll just show you. So I'll duplicate this layer, Command J. I'm dragging it over our player panel. So now you can see that it fully covers it, but I want it to kind of feel like it's in between the back of this letter here and the front here. I want this to kind of lip up. So that's what we'll do. Actually, maybe I like this. We'll see. So what I did was like a little bit of a layer mask. So the part that I wanted to appear over the image, I'll select here. So I have it selected, and then if you look at this box with the circle in it, this is the layer mask panel. I use this a lot, but what you do is you'll click it, and then it automatically puts this piece of our background asset over our player panel. So a little simple, and if you don't like that, you can invert it. So Command I, and then you can see which one looks better. So for me, I'm liking it going over the top here. We'll just keep it there. And then, yeah, so this looks, good enough to me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a lot of these a smart object. So this is kind of what we do when we like the design, we've approved the design, and we want to make sure that it can be updated across different assets. So for, Instagram or for Twitter or for Instagram story sizes, like those are all different, right? So, you don't want to have to go through and update, this is what you do if you were trying to update it, like, and they were all not linked. You duplicate it here, you drag the photo, you'd have to update all the text individually, and imagine doing that over 3, 4, or 5 sizes.
Nightmare fuel.
It's no joke.
Use smart objects. They're your friends.
So we'll give that a go here. I actually might add one more just to kind of keep with the vibe of like that die cut sticker. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna drag this here, make it a smart object. So for me, that's Command Option C. But if you don't have that, that's something I use all the time. So I have a shortcut for it. But if you don't have that, you'll right click the layer and then you'll drop down to convert to smart object. Click that, boom. And then I'm just gonna do a color overlay like we did before. And then we have that die cut type of effect on it, that drop shadow.
Right.
Cool. So our player panel and our die cut shadow, what we'll do is we'll make that a smart object. For our cobbler's score, let me make sure these are all linked together. This will be, okay, that looks good. Gaucho score, cool. That's
Love how
in.
organized you are too, man. It's this whole thing, seeing so many people go live, is whether or not they name their layers. I mean, I
Oh
feel
my
like you kind of
gosh.
have to if you're packaging it for delivery for other people to use, right?
Sure.
I
A little bit
mean,
of a
but
stolen valor situation. I definitely, my files are not normally this organized. I know my boss can attest to this. He's definitely been like, we got to get a little bit more organized. So I try to make sure if someone else is using, my files that they're clean and that, everyone knows where things are
right,
going because, so often you think it would make sense, like how your file's set up until someone gets into like where's this, object or where are all your backgrounds that they're all over the place or why is some text layers like all the way in the top of the layer panel and then some all the way at the bottom. Yeah, it can mess with people and I definitely think that um, I, I I don't know if I got some advice or I saw this, but I know one of the things that I always admire from other designers is whether or not they're able to, like you said, make their files organized. Because kind of design, the way that I look at it, isn't just making cool stuff for the sake of cool stuff. It's for it to be usable and accessible for everybody. Like not just the people that are seeing this on their screen and if they can read the text, but people designing on the back end. Like something well designed is well designed top to bottom. Like how you set up your files, how you set up your layers, your organization, which I'm trying to work on because that's definitely a part of my game that I need to work on. But I know it's important, and definitely once you're working as a professional in this space, people expect a certain level of professionalism with not just how you conduct yourself, but how you organize your files and stuff like that. So it's always good to keep in mind, especially when you're wanting to do this as a career.
right. And I think, I mean, being fully transparent is I usually start with a folder template, but it does get organized the bigger the beast gets.
Right,
And if it's just for our eyes only, it's fine,
for sure.
But like you said, if it's being delivered, you're like, oh, let me button up here, and
Right.
this is super organized. Believe me, it's always been this way.
For sure. Okay, so we're finishing up our smart object situation here. We got our score all smart objected out here. We have our player name right here, which will actually I'll make that. Now we can update that later. And then we got our player panel. So what we'll do is we have all these smart objects now. So what we'll do if we want to make a 16 or 9 by 16, which ends up being our Instagram story size, I'll Command J. So I selected our artboard and then Command J that. And so now all of our smart objects are linked. So we can test that here. If we double click this and let's say we want to swap the player out. Let's say go to our libraries. We have another player here. This is Joe Schmo, obviously, and then we'll make that a smart object, and then I'll drag this layer. So this is what we talked about with different lighting conditions and stuff like that,
Hmm.
wanting to make sure that it's not too jarring whenever you put a different player in there. So we'll test to see if the smart object worked. We'll save it, Command S, go back to original file, and it should update with both, right?
Nice.
So now we know that they work. And so now what we'll do is we'll try to get it resized for 9 by 16, so an Instagram story size, for example. So for me, I do this enough to where I know that the 9 by 16 of this is 1125. So I'm editing our artboard size, but to do that, I'll just drag it here. So, and I always, funny enough, I have a calculator with me at my desk. I know my coworkers can attest to this, but sometimes when we're working with different sizes and whatever, different ratios, I always start with a base line of my 1x1s are always 2000 by 2000. And then all of the subsequent resizes are multiples of that 2000. And I was telling Paco, I was a math major in college. So for me, I think about things like that. It's a lot easier for me to, compartmentalize and organize like that. So that's a little something to keep in mind whenever you're resizing, is kind of your base file size, and then knowing the different types of sizes that come from that, the 9:16 ratios and stuff like that.
Right.
So cool. So now I'm just trying to get this 9:16 to fit kind of the same vibe that we're going for with our 1x1. Want to make sure the logo is visible and you can tell that it's there. Also want to make sure that, we're getting in that our red here. And so I'll just cheat a little bit and put it in the background here. This won't be linked, but we don't really need it to be because it's just a background element. So we'll put it here, kind of fill out that space. And then I'll drag this further. Also take our score, make it a little bit smaller so we can fit all of our information in. And then cool. So we'll drag in our name. Rooster, yeah. So, let's say, the score goes final, right? And it's not 3-2, and we'll update that here. We can have our text layer. Let's say it's 6. I'll lock this for a second, and now select the one below. Oops. Select the one below. Highlight that as 6. And normally you wouldn't do this. There's a better way to do this, obviously. And when time is of the essence, like, you wouldn't want to go through and edit these individually. But in this case, we kind of can't get around it with this effect. Probably if I was going to sit down and make a graphic that, like, I really wanted to be keyed in, I probably would make an action to be able to, like, drop this effect. So you'd edit, the number. You will select the action over here in this play panel. You'll select it, and then you'll hit this playhead. And what that does is it basically just takes this effect that you spent some time making, it records it, and then now you're able to record that action and apply it onto different numbers and stuff like that. So that's what I would do if I really, like, had to sit down and think for 2 hours. Okay, how would I want to do this? Okay, I would do this, this, and this. But here it kind of gets our point across where these scores can edit and update kind of on demand, which is great. So yeah, so I like where this is at. What I'll do is I'll rename this file 9:16. And there's a couple ways to export these out. And I'll talk about this because I think it's one of the secrets to getting really quick with exporting and getting things ready for your social media team, who's waiting on standby to be able to post these things. You want it to go out really quick. So there's 2 ways to do this. I'll show you the long way and I'll show you the shortcut. So I want to export these out, and to export them out as PNGs is, kind of not the industry standard. It's the highest quality, but, when upload times are of the essence and, stadium Wi-Fi is, pretty unreliable, you want to make sure it's like a JPEG format or something a little bit smaller. For me, we'll keep it simple. I'll export as a PNG for right now, but what you do is you go to File, Export, quick export as a PNG. So what this will do is it'll send this, actually, I'll save this just to make sure, but it'll send it to the file location that you already have saved in your folder. So to find that, you can access it by, and I just found this out this year, always learning, right? This is ABL, always be learning moment here. You'll select this file tab, you'll right click, and this is a lifesaver for me, Reveal in Finder. So then it'll take you to your Finder wherever you have it, and super helpful. So you can see here that they're already exported, super easy to find. On the cadence of a game day, you take these 2 files, you drop them into a Slack channel, we tag at Organic Social, that gets them tagged. So as soon as it sends, they get notified. They'll take that, put that on Instagram, Twitter, all the platforms that we're posting on, and then they'll ship it out. So that's one way to do it. But this is, I mean, oh my gosh, like, this blew my mind whenever I found out you could do this.
I'm a casual Photoshop user, but know it well enough. I didn't know this trick. That is pretty cool. I know, like, I use Premiere and After Effects a lot. They have a version of this, but getting that little tab and right-clicking it, you taught me something new too, my friend.
Yeah, it's always be learning, man. That
always
is
be learning.
A lifesaver. So that's one way to export it, but if you, for eagle-eyed viewers, you would see that I've got export, quick export as a PNG, and then I have a shortcut here. So the shortcut doesn't come stock with Photoshop. You'd have to go here, shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts. I would look up export to find quick export as a PNG, and then I made it a shortcut for me just because I use this all the time throughout my day-to-day. So Command E, so I'd have our file here, I would save it just to be sure, and I would just do Command E. And then it should, yeah, you saw there was a little bit of a loading screen, and it should do the same thing, reveal in Finder, and then you can see it uploads here. Now we don't need them, right? But for posterity, what we'll do is my boss, if he's watching this, he'll know, file names are the most important part of, one of the most important parts of what we do. So we'll rename our file here. We'll add our file slug to the front of it. We'll rename. And so now, we save everything to a drive. So this is how we do that, and be able to find it, for like, okay, score template, like game one, right? You'll have, I don't know, 100 billion games in the baseball season. I don't know how, there's so many, but you'd have your way of being able to label them and know which game it is, what week it is. And so here we kind of have that industry standard version of that for us. And yeah, they're accessible here. So that's how you export them. But then also, if you were to want to schedule this content out, obviously we kind of do things live, and that's kind of the big thing where, anything you see on social from an NFL team, a baseball team, someone's in the stadium, they're updating things real time. Like it really is like, kind of not archaic, but it's, people are there doing this. It's not automated. It's very much someone behind the keyboard, behind the sticks doing this. But kind of to that end, one of the things that is obviously important is scheduling out your content and making sure that you're able to post things when you can either anticipate a big event happening or when it's live. So one of the ways that we're able to do that is through Adobe Express. And so this is something that was new to me and that I'm trying to learn with my personal content. But for the sake of this stream, we'll kind of keep it more baseball aligned. But to do this, to schedule out your content, you can go to express.adobe.com. You'll get to this main page. If you see these three dots and click more, you can hit schedule. And now you have your calendar for the week, right? So let's say this game happened, today. It just went live, but we're still waiting. They're reviewing the last score, right? They're reviewing if it was a home run or not, or if it got robbed, right? So, but okay, we can't wait on that. We got to make sure it's ready to go. So we'll hit post. We'll schedule out our content, and then we'll go to our device, browse, and then I already have this stuff in here. So working file, exports, and let's do our Instagram story size here. Upload, and then it gives you the option when you select your channel, which is actually pretty interesting. I'll select my Instagram, and it gives you the option to do your 16:9. Should be good to go. I'm not really sure what, let's see. Oh, 1120, see, there's 1125. So that's how you, yeah, I gotta double check the numbers here, right? So 1125, we'll crop that in here. Okay, so you see, there's an issue, right? Quick export, look how quick it is. Updates automatically. We have our file here. So just like that, that might be something that happens on a game day. You got a little bit of a blip, and we say, okay, we gotta scrap this piece. It's not sized right. You go through, boom, look how quick that is. Browse, you got it here, assets, 9:16.
Well, I think it's, so this is more, okay, so if you're going 9:16, change it to a reel where it says Instagram post type.
Oh, is it not updated automatically?
No. So go back to Instagram. Yeah. And then just at the bottom there, you can say if it's a post or a reel, because post is a different
story.
thing.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Boom.
So then that's the 9:16.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So now it's our 9:16 size. You can do schedule. So, we can post this, let's say, so let's say the 15th. Yeah. 15th. Oops. Oh my gosh. Boom. I don't want to post now. So let's say 10:54. And you can just schedule it. And so this will go up on my story, on my page, right now, or within the next hour. You'll see it. So it's scheduled, and you can do this across all different types of platforms. So posts, other channels, got my Facebook, Twitter, all these things. You can schedule all of them. Kind of a new thing that I'm trying to work with on my personal account, but one of those things that if you are a team of creatives or whatever, and you want to make sure that your stuff can be scheduled out and planned ahead. You can never be too prepared working in sports. So this is one way to do that. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of creating these templates and kind of what the thought goes. Excuse me, what thought goes into developing these and making sure that they're used across all different types of platforms and with different designers hopping in on them. These are kind of the questions I ask myself as I make these templates, and other designers, ask the same questions to get them in a spot where everyone can use them. So that's a little bit of the peek behind the curtain of what part of my job looks like with the Chargers.
Jorge, you did amazing, man. This is awesome. And you put us right at time. We're actually right where we need to end the stream because we have more Adobe Live coming up. But this
For
was
sure.
amazing, man. Thank you so much for showing us.
Yeah.
This came out great. I can't believe you did this in like 40, 50 minutes, man. Look at
Yeah.
this
A
professional
lot can get done in
graphics.
an hour. No, I love
Walked
it.
us through it like from start to finish, the ideation, the designing, how to export. Oh, so good. Jorge, thank you so much for joining us. It's been
Absolutely.
a pleasure watching you work and getting behind your brain on how all of this works for your professional job and just showing us how to use this in such an efficient manner. So thanks.
Sure.
It was amazing having you as always. Don't go
Thanks for having
anybody
me.
or don't go anywhere, friends. We have Ryan Selvey coming up with the File News Show. So more Adobe Live coming up. Stick around. We'll be back in just a few minutes. All right. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.
See y'all.